Alright, this video is on police stall tactics, intimidation tactics, assault tactics, and preventative tactics. In order for the police to do what they did to me, they had to prevent me from making a report. See, I'd been speaking out about the Boulder police, and police, believe it or not, in many of the places that I had been in, because these policies are the same in most places. These policies are put in place to protect the city from the wrongdoing of officers. These policies are made to, under the guise of your protection, they make laws that make it so that if you have a grievance against an officer, there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it. Now, in order to get that court date with Shelly and Alicia and whoever else was on those protection orders, because I literally haven't seen one of them that they passed. Have not. I have no copy of it, no record of it, nor have I ever seen it. Now, I do remember them handing me a piece of paper and trying to read it and having it go blurry in front of my face because they drugged me for trying to make a police report. They did that repeatedly, and it's okay. I already knew this tactic, the tactic of assaulting them, charging them with assault, and then drugging them and claiming that they're crazy. They've done it pretty much my whole life. I've seen them do it to probably close to 1,000 people. Probably at least 100 homeless people just in Boulder County. They got a tactic I call the push me, pull you. They put an officer on either side of you. You're not resisting. You're not having any issues. You're pissed off probably because you're in handcuffs, but so they got an officer on either side of you, and one of the officers jerks you just a little bit over towards him. And the officer on the other side slams you to the ground and claims you are trying to get away. Another tactic they do is they assault you. They put you into severe amount of pain using pressure points. Now, this is something that's been documented as well. I know this information thanks to Darren O'Connor. The very same attorney that Darren O'Connor was working with, this attorney also defended a sexual offender who was assaulted by police. And he won that guy $200,000. But he also got $3.6 million for a woman who went through the same treatment I did. She was in a facility. They showed up while she was changing her clothes. They dragged her out naked. They assaulted the fuck out of her. They used pressure points. Where have we heard this before? Oh yeah, they did that shit to me, didn't they? With the exception of the naked part. It's called pain compliance. When they do it in Guantanamo Bay, it's called torture. It is against the law to torture a U.S. citizen. You change the name and it makes it okay. It's against the law to assault a mentally disabled person. But you call them mentally ill and it makes it okay. It's against the law to slander a man's name. But if you call him a rapist or a child molester, it makes it okay. When you call somebody a rapist or a child molester, they never get an honest chance again. Ted Bollinger is a child molester. Tim Beeson is a child molester. I'm not. Now, a lot of people decided to retaliate against me for telling the truth by slandering my name. I saved evidence that I was telling the truth, and they were slandering my name. Now, by preventing me from making a report against these officers, no criminal charges were ever pressed against these officers, which meant that they didn't have to look at the evidence that I was trying to show them, despite the fact that at the time there was an ongoing murder investigation where I was apparently one of their biggest suspects. Then again, they kept changing their mind about that depending on who they were talking to. These officers repeatedly wasted your tax dollars to frame and assault an innocent man. And you want me to shut up? The Bollinger family raped Natalie, abused Natalie, neglected Natalie, got her hooked on drugs, had her selling drugs. And you pretend like they're the victims. You pretend like I have no reason to be angry. A lot of people think that I should feel sorry for them because somebody fucking died. Like Derek Parrish, I should feel bad for him because his mother died. I do. But then again, when Natalie died, he didn't give a shit. It didn't bother him or matter to him or occur to him that I gave a shit about Natalie. I give a shit about Derek. I give a shit about Derek's girlfriend, Joanna Taylor. I give a shit about Aunt B. And yes, I am pissed off at all these people. They should have come forward. But they see it differently. Why do they see it differently? Because it's unpopular. Unpopular to tell the truth. Because I was called a child molester, a rapist, a stalker, and a murderer of a very attractive young woman. I've gotten to hear from all sorts of people how pretty Natalie was. I know. And I'm betting she wasn't that pretty after having a 9mm go through her head. All over slander by the Bollingers in Virginia. Now, the fact that I had been trying to get an officer to take a report for over a year before she was killed, it doesn't make any difference, does it? You can't make the police do their jobs. Well, actually, you can. You can sign into legislature to have your tax dollars used to make those officers wear body cams. And make it so they can't turn it off. Make it so that it's illegal for them to edit those cameras. By preventing me from filing a report against those officers gained access to assault me again. By preventing me access to speak to an officer when I was assaulted at Clearview, the people at Clearview were able to frame me. And the thing is that their frame job is piss poor. The problem is I can't get any public pretender to actually look at that. They don't care. They want me to plead guilty. The thing is, I don't have access to all of this information because I don't even have a goddamn mailbox. And you want to say, well, Shannon Alvarado offered you a mailbox. She's in fucking California, stupid. Brenda Dickinson offered you a mailbox. That's right. And she's in Nebraska, stupid. She also doesn't answer her fucking door. That fucked me pretty severely. I'm not going to stop speaking out for human rights. I'm not going to stop speaking out for my rights because I'm a human. People keep saying, Sean, you need to take care of you. I am. The slander by these people destroyed any life that I can possibly have with anything in it worth living. I am too disabled to work. And even if I wasn't too disabled to work, this slander against me will prevent me from being able to get most jobs. People type up my name on the internet and what do they see? The slander. And the little bits and pieces people tried to pull out to pretend like I'm a bad person. You can see public opinion. How these lies affect the way that people think and the way that they treat me. Yes, these judges and lawyers went out of their way to do everything in their power to prevent me from being able to file reports against them. And then later on, because I was not unwilling, but unable, illegally prevented from writing reports against the bollingers and these internet cronies and these officers and this judge. Because I was prevented from doing that, these predators gained access to do it again. To hold court dates without me illegally. But because nobody stood up in my corner, I got a bunch of pretty fucking words is what I got. You want to wonder why I'm pretty pissed off about pretty fucking words? Because your pretty fucking memes don't get me a lawyer, bitch. Two in the hand is worth one in the bush. One in the hand is worth two in the bush. Five in the bush is worth... Who gives a fuck? Does that get me a goddamn lawyer? Does it get evidence in there? Does it get me a trial? Here's the thing. I was prevented from doing so. These stall tactics, like locking me up and shipping me to other jurisdictions and keeping my money tied up and going to court date after court date after court date where nothing happens. They have no remorse for the things that they've done. None. I'm pissed off because I have to do this shit. So then they say, oh, well, we can't take your report because you have warrants. Well, with all due respect, I wouldn't have had warrants if these people had done their jobs. If these courts and these cops and these hospitals had not intentionally and repeatedly broken the law. If they hadn't been busy covering each other's asses, if they hadn't been busy ignoring evidence and allowing slander into the courtrooms, and preventing me from even going to my court dates. I went to every single court date until August of last year. In August of last year, I had a court date that I was prevented from going to, that I should have been allowed to go to. While I was trying to do everything in my power to get to that court date, I was being assaulted repeatedly by guards in the Boulder County Jail. Repeatedly. They even strapped me to a chair and used pressure points while I was in the chair. I'm the only person in Boulder County history to ever slip out of that chair. Yeah, I'm pretty fucking proud of myself. I told them they needed to let me out of that fucking chair. And I kept screaming about it. After about 4 hours, I just snuck out of it on my own. Went and laid down and went to sleep. They put me in that chair to punish me for speaking out. I was repeatedly put on suicide watch to prevent me from speaking out and to paint me as a crazy person so they could do whatever they wanted. And guess what? They did whatever they wanted. Yeah, I'm going to keep speaking out. Now, the judge in Natalie's case, who allowed things onto that protection order that should not have been on there, things that put Natalie and her family at risk. Meanwhile, Shelley wants to pretend that that was me putting them at risk by posting that up. No. At the time that I posted that up, I thought that was Natalie's address. I had no idea that that was Natalie's grandmother's address until Miss Shelley told me. Sorry, Miss Danica. So I didn't know that anybody even would live there. I was pretty sure since Natalie was dead, that information wasn't going to hurt anybody. Also, the phone numbers. Miss Danica and Miss Shelley tried to pretend that I put them and their families at risk by posting up their phone numbers. No, both of those women had let me know they no longer had those telephones. So how did I put them at risk? There's slander and them pretending, just like Kara Johnson, a.k.a. Kara Miles, was doing. Miss Shelley was doing this as well. Miss Danica was doing this as well. Meanwhile, I'm pouring my resources into believing these people because I need an honest day in court. They weren't interested in an honest day in court. They were interested in framing me for things that I didn't do. And they needed a judge who would be well invested in doing that for them. That was a judge who I was prevented from making a report about because of their stall tactics. See, here's the reason for stall tactics. They have to prevent you from filing charges against them long enough for them to frame you. And once they've framed you, they use that as an excuse not to take your report. With my case, it was pretty fucked up. Now, there's people who say, hey, Sean, you never said anything about the whole child molesting and rape thing to me. Not until after Natalie was dead. Well, with all due respect, I spoke up about it on my Facebook publicly before Natalie died. There's text messages between Maddie and I that shows that I was letting her know what was going on. In March of 2017, possibly earlier. But these people never bothered to look at that, did they? No. They listened to these druggies. These people who were well invested in covering up their own wrongdoing and their own illegal activities. I should never have had to break the law. The police should have taken my report in Chesapeake, Virginia. They should have taken my report in Chapel, Nebraska, repeatedly. They should have taken my report in Boulder, Colorado, repeatedly. They should have taken my report in Broomfield. They should have taken my report in so many instances and didn't. Now, they can't get me for filing a false police report because I was prevented from even filing a police report. I can't be put in trouble for lying in a courtroom because I didn't get to speak in the courtrooms. Every time I tried, I was cut off and treated like shit. The police were hostile towards me. The judges were hostile towards me. The guards were hostile towards me. And yet they never investigated any of the crimes against me. They stalled it out until I had to break the law. And then they used the fact that I broke the law to make it okay that they had broken the law. The police had broken the law hundreds of times. But they only post slander. The newspapers would only print slander. The news only printed slander. And when I told the truth to two different news agencies, those reporters illegally cut up my interviews so that they could use them to try to paint me as a bad guy. The media did this. Jennifer Dejowski and this Josh feller and Mike Boudet. And you want to shut me up. You shut down my YouTube, I'll make another one. My Facebook, I see how heavily you guys are invested in destroying it. You guys are allowed to slander my name, but I'm not allowed to speak the truth. You guys are allowed to paraphrase little bits and pieces and make outrageous claims based on the little bits and pieces that you manipulated others with that resulted in them harming me. But it's fine for you, isn't it? The Bollingers are allowed to speak. Nobody cuts them off. And they're slandering my name. Jennifer Farina Bollinger did this. Danica Garner did this. Shelley did this. Even Rose did it. Even Rose. Rose knew I wasn't stalking her daughter. They were pretending to try to hide their own wrongdoing. I didn't even know how to take screenshots. Now, I recorded a conversation with me and Laura Nelson, and she doesn't remember teaching me how to take screenshots. She doesn't even know how to take screenshots. She doesn't know how to take screenshots to this day. But you know what? On the ride down there from Candace's house to Todd Ryan Case's apartment, she looked it up. It was the exact same thing that I had been trying. I just hadn't been doing it right. I'd been pressing one button and then the other, and you have to try to basically catch them both at the same time. Instead of assuming that I'm guilty based on the slander of people who are invested in preventing me from having a court date, someone needs to take a look. But no money means no rights. I've said that for years. People wanted to throw money at me for shit that didn't help. They wanted to not listen and tell me to call the same places over and over and over again. You see how many times I called the FBI? They don't give a shit. Now that woman who won $3.6 million, you know what? She won that money through a civil suit. Now, the Internal Affairs had decided that the police hadn't done any wrong. Of course not. But then, when she takes it to civil trial, she's able to prove that these people did these things. The police said that the illegal actions of these police officers were okay. A jury thought otherwise. The fact is, if a judge does something as fucked up and horrible as what that judge did on Natalie's protection order, and yes, that affected public opinion and resulted in me being assaulted on multiple occasions. So, that judge is directly responsible for multiple assaults against me, as well as slander against me. And that judge was allowed to prevent me from going to court, slander me in court, and pretend like I was threatening to kill people because I have a 98-cent Walmart squirt gun with jalapeno juice to defend myself against predators who are assaulting me over his slander and his inability to do his job. And I can prove this, but nobody cares. You don't give a fuck about your constitutional rights. If it's happening to somebody else, it's fine. If it's happening to you, it's the end of the fucking world. I will always speak out. Always.